said, excuse me, but you don't understand where I'm at. I was all around the world, on span, cross the map. I've been laying low and now it's time to pop up, bitch, I'm back. Now I'ma run it up. Snooze on the kid that you dumb or what? You better go get your numbers up. Now throw me the oop, I gotta hire a Jerry Maguire. I'm tired of hearing it, show me the loot. I had to listen, they told me to shoot. Like it or not, man, I told them the truth. I stay away from the things that be causing me trouble, just out here enjoying the view. Seeing shit I never had, boy, I used to be a bad boy. Now I'm in my bag, boy, I knew. I don't do the rumors or the tabloids, I'll let you handle that noise. That shit doesn't last, no, it's true. Each time that I move, ayy, my free time ain't free time, it's peace signs if you snooze. I got crease lines in my shoes. Walk with me, you see what I do. Walk with me, you see what I mean. Show you how to see it right through. I said, excuse me, but you don't understand where I'm at. I was all around the world, on span, cross the map. I've been laying low and now it's time to pop up, bitch, I'm back. Now I'ma run it up. Snooze on the kid that you dumb or what? You better go get your numbers up. Really on God, getting paid for this shit while I drink on the job. They so desperate for some clicks to the links on they blog. Being real, man, it's nothing but exhaust. Come on, I said excuse me, please. Why they speak like they knew me? Right from the gate, I had all of it written. When they speak of grace, knowing they don't include me. It took me a while, I weathered the storm. Bitch, why you hating? Get better informed. No room to slip when the pressure is on. You wasn't with it to move it along. I said excuse me, you don't understand where I'm at. I was all around the world, on span, cross the map. I've been laying low and now it's time to pop up, bitch, I'm back. Now I'ma run it up. Snooze on the kid that you dumb or what? You better go get your numbers up.
Hop in the car, watch it go vroom, vroom. I told her mom that I will soon, soon. Knew as a child, back in the womb. Oh, told her step back, I need my room, room. Hop in the car, watch it go vroom. I'm in a whip, so I gotta zoom. They tryna talk, they not in the room. I've been so real, I'm dead to the tomb. They in the way, they gotta move. I got a gas, they running on fumes. Told them way back, it's something new. It's me and Dan, you gotta choose. I'm taking what's mine, I'm doing fine. Don't see the vision, they looking so blind. I hit my lawyer, don't got the time. Crossing my T's and he dotting those eyes. Don't take offense if I do not oblige. I can't relate with like none of these guys. They hit me once and I'm cutting the ties. I was so low, but I'm back on the rise, it's real. Hop in the car, watch it go vroom, vroom. I told her mom that I will soon, soon. Knew as a child, back in the womb. Oh, told her step back, I need my room, room. Hop in the car, watch it go vroom. I'm hopping now I gotta go. I'm looking back, they not even close. I had a 4, now I need a ghost. I got a wave like I'm on the coast. Same ones are doubting, I dare the show. So way that I'm ballin', they think I'm a pro. I'm getting sick by the money I gross. They saying whoa, I told them all what this is. I told them all I don't miss. Said it's my time, look at this shit on my wrist. And when they shooting this breaks, I'm going in a new gig, gotta shift. I cannot stick to the script, I cannot wait. Watch how I get it and flip. It's just how I'm doing this shit and I'm gone. Just how I'm doing this shit and I'm gone. Hey, just how I'm doing this shit and I'm gone. Said I'm taking big shots, just stop. Way I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like the 6th spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop, way I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like the 6th spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. They been trying to get me cheap like a thrift shop, but I told them it's my time, shit the wristwatch. They been talking way before they even doing something. Whoa. If they wanna play, let's get a tip off. Ain't no silver lining, dawg, this some rose gold. Getting new money, I'm a old soul. Yeah, I get it bouncing like a pogo. Whoa. And I'm too cold like Frozone, and my chick elastic, girl. Told him we ain't in the faking, this ain't plastic, girl. Bought a new whip and cash, now my tax is thorough. Way I'm shooting like step, but my pass is bro. The way I'm playing the field, I'm in a league of my own. And now they all in their fields, I got them all on my phone. But dog, I'm hitting the climb, I got no time on the low. Way I'm shooting is messy, the way I'm hitting the goals. I'm taking big shots, just stop. Way I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop, way I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. I just left, but you know I'm coming back though. And you know I don't play by my rags though. Now go and turn it up to the max, whoa. Send a paper to me now like a fax, whoa. Got 2 phones ringing off the hook now. When I'm in the city, I get looks now. I was going bad, but I'm good now. Said I had to go and put my foot down. Told him I'ma get it and go. Even in the summer, man, they knowing I'm cold. I got a couple checks coming that I made out the flows. Might get a couple more popping if I do it some more. I gotta do it for real. Said I'm back in my bag. All my digits are climbing just like they all on a dash. And they tell me slow down, cause dog, I'm moving too fast. Might go and cop me a Tesla, cause dog, I still got a gas. So I'm taking big shots. Just stop, way I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop, way I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming on my landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command like. Yeah, you about to see me on demand like. You know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't never going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll. Ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know, yeah. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, yeah. On the road, here we go, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll. Ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know, yeah. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, yeah. On the road, here we go, here we go. Here we go. On the road, here we go, here we go.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Frankie Candles live stream, and Bitcoin is testing an insanely critical level of resistance, guys. Currently getting a little bit of a rejection. Are we going to get the big breakdown into the, I guess, $60,000 level? We're going to talk about the biggest line in the sand to the downside. Covered this a little bit in yesterday's market update. We got money flow, guys. I want to walk through the money flow with you. We got the high time frames really not looking super bad between like the say the 5 hour and the daily potentially looking good, but then we got everything else completely mixed up. So I'm going to show you the trades, where I'm positioned, where I'm looking for the next bounces, the next rejections, the next shorts, the next longs. We'll take a look at the SPY as well, as we have obviously gotten a big bounce from our key level of support that we looked at a while ago. So we'll try to put the puzzle together here for you guys and see if we got to go back down towards the lows or if we're going to be able to continue the bigger breakout above $68,000 for that massive move up to 71.5 and then potentially 75K. So shout out to the Mafia. Welcome in. Thank you guys for tuning in. We got M-Dog in the chat. Welcome in, brother. Let's see. We got Jose said the pattern traders would say it's a giant head and shoulders. We could take a look at that. Yeah, I think I do know what you're talking about. You guys can't see my screen right now. But yeah, we could talk about a potential giant head and shoulders. We got Jesse and Darren Dusings in the chat holding it down as our mods, guys. Show them some love. Let's see. We got Jay Millman in the chat. Said, great day from Utah. Hey, shout out to Utah. Never been to Utah. But shout out to you, brother. Welcome in. Let's see. We got Embrace in the chat. Said, yo, Mafia, what's the sauce, Frankie? Well, speaking of the sauce, let's go ahead and jump on into the charts, guys. Take a look at these key levels and try to figure out if this thing is going to pump or dump. Let's get into it. So here we are, guys, and don't forget to smash that like button if you guys appreciate the content here. We got the market update yesterday. Not really too much of a development since then. But yeah, smash that like button if you have not already. It's the easiest and most free way to help us out here on the YouTube channel. And I'll say it again, guys. If we get 550 likes, the next live stream we get 550 likes, I will gift $150 in USDT to one lucky CandleMafia member. We're trying to get the giveaways going again. We are dealing with some back-end changes. I want to make sure we're able to fulfill on the giveaways before we start them again. Of course, that would be a bad scene. But anyway, as we jump in here, guys, Bitcoin tapping into our major levels of resistance. If we pull up, I'm going to start here on the lower time frames. We're going to go backwards today. I'm going to kind of talk about the local price action, what's going on right now, and then we'll dive into kind of the higher time frame thought processes, because of course, guys, we have been sitting here trying to figure out, I know I'm kind of going backwards at this point, but talking about how obviously we have a major level of resistance here. We're starting to tap into the start of that zone. But of course, if, at the end of the day, if we are able to crack and hold $68,000, this could be a potentially big doorway to higher prices, pointing towards $71,000 to $77,000. Call it 75 to 77. This is what we covered in the market update if you missed it. Obviously, the biggest level of resistance is to come up here and flip the structure. However, if we do have to go for a pullback, which we're going to take a look at based on the lower and medium time frame money flow, if we do have to pull back, how low can we go? You'll kind of know the general area I'm looking at if you saw the market update. And then obviously what could happen if we lose that level. My overall thoughts, I'll give you the bullish case, the bearish case, and of course I'll let you guys know which way I'm leaning, as we always do. So overall, let's go ahead and jump on down to the local profile. Of course, if you guys tuned into the market update yesterday, you will know, actually pretty funny, shout out to the premium live stream or the premium Discord. We were live yesterday during our premium live stream talking about how as we were bing-bonging around up here, I was a bit suspicious of coming up and putting in one more high, and I did take a partial short position and then decided letting them know in the premium if we do get that secondary pop to the upside. It's actually hilarious, guys. We joked about breaking out the blue chew again as we were consolidating here. Should have done it, man. Should have done it. We got that instant pop to the upside. But we did get the push, right? Many reasons to be expecting that secondary push to the upside, right? Mostly, and one of the big reasons is the fact that, of course, when we talk about our long position, which is sitting from down here at the $58,000 level, I think I have this on the chart, right? So still holding the long. I'm not in here from the bottom of the wick, but that was the general setup, was to come in here to the 58K level. We talked about the confirmations. I'm going to save you guys the repetitiveness for today's live stream, but we did go ahead and take that in the premium. We got back inside the value area low. Once we flip this, next likely stop is the POC, and then, of course, once we hold on top of this POC, we can eventually look for that value area high to come in. So yesterday when we were looking at the charts, we did see, of course, that we were bing-bonging around here, and really what made me look for this secondary pop to the upside was, number one, when you go from the low to the POC, the next likely target, these magnetic levels, guys, it is like magic. Here, you're thinking, oh my God, I missed the short. Oh, nope. And then here you're thinking, oh my God, are we going to dump? Nope. You have to come up and hit that POC. Of course, it's not 100% probability, but you can just see how magnetic these levels are regardless of the chop, the scariness, right? Eventually you do come up for that full fill of the volume profile in the most poetic fashion possible. But another thing that made me kind of look for that was the fact that we did have this momentum wave coming down. I was looking at this as, well, hey, if we do put a new high in, we could potentially print a bearish divergence as we expect that value area high to get hit. We actually wound up not printing the bear div, but we're able to predict that push to the upside. I did fill the rest of my short position. And the question is now, right, we've already gone from low to POC to high. Are we about to go from the high, be unable to break back out here, go back to the POC, lose the POC, and eventually head back down to the low? Well, this is going to be the volume profile that I'm looking at locally here. And of course, I will break down the money flow for you guys when we get to the higher time frames. But right now, this is the volume profile that I'm looking at. Value area high sitting at 64, call it like 64,600, 64,550. POC sitting here. We've already come down to retest that. So we are holding on top of the POC at this moment. But POC sitting at $62,568. And then, of course, we have the value area low sitting down here with a lot more confluence than the POC or any level in between, sitting at about, call it value area low, sitting at about $60,000. Now, this golden pocket is the full Fibonacci retracement from the low. Well, we're actually going to be a little bit higher up there because this defaulted back to the lower high. But this does sit starting at about 60,300. Value area low sits at about 60K. So we do have this beautiful confluence. It is the full Fibonacci retracement. So when we start covering those key levels of support, of course, we covered this last night on the market update. But of course, this is going to be generally the biggest level of support in my opinion. So locally, I am just viewing this as a volume profile. I am holding the hedge short. I am okay, guys. Again, when we take a look at money flow, you're going to kind of see sometimes when we have a lot of time frames pointing to one direction, we can call for the confident breakout. Here we do have some mixed signals. I'll cover them and kind of give you my, how I'm digesting these mixed signals and how I'm personally trading them and still making money, even though I am not 100% confident what the outcome is going to be here based on those mixed signals. But at the end of the day, we're inside the volume profile. We can just generally say we tap the value area high as long as you remain below this value area high, and specifically the weekly and the weekly MPOC above. Of course, when we look at these volume profiles, we don't always have to say, the value area high is the exact level. We can see deviations above these levels, just like we did down here. We deviated below the low. We put in those nice bullish divergences. We also got the local confirmations as well down here. At that point, we see this as cheap price. We look for those long positions for eventual rotation back into the fair value, into the POC, into the value area high. So number one, we are rejecting the value area high until we're able to break out of here. Right? We can say the POC is an open door. That will be the next key level to the downside. Once we lose that, we can eventually look to come down here, and we'll also take a look at the liquidity heat maps because we do have a lot of liquidity sitting below this wick, which could help us lead into that golden pocket. But if we do come up, right, it is not just one single level here, guys. The value area high could potentially, if we get a push above that, we do have some backup resistance here on the weekly and the weekly MPOC. So this is going to be kind of the backstop of resistance here. It would not be until we're able to get out of the value area high. This could be looked at as a deviation for a potential rejection at these levels for acceptance back into the range. But really what I want to get at here is if we end up flipping this weekly and weekly MPOC, guys, this is, in my opinion, what is going to open the door to that bigger move. So key levels of resistance. Number one, we are already rejecting the value area high. Let me actually pull these up now. Let's pull up our macro volume profile, right? So we have the value area low of our previous major high time frame range. And then, of course, when we pull our Fibonacci retracements from the high to the low, we are currently, there we go, right? So this 786 is right on that value area low. So that next major key level of resistance is really going to be sitting between the 786 and that weekly MPOC. As we all know, when we look at these Fibonacci retracements, if we're going to put in a lower high, we are still in a bear market, as I described yesterday. So for me personally, my general thought process here, guys, is we do have to be careful of the rejections because we have clear downtrend forming here. If we're looking for lower highs and lower lows, which I will argue some of the higher time frames, such as the 12-hour money flow starting to cross green, this isn't necessarily one of those situations where I'm fully anticipating a lower high for a very likely lower low like we were expecting in here, which was also a golden pocket 786 retracement. At that time, we had a lot of money flow in the red. Daily was deep in the red, just kind of starting, which of course can indicate money flow, indicates the overall trend. When that money flow, if I pull this back into bar replay mode real quick for you, you can see, whoops. Okay, let me go ahead and pull this back, right? So when we come up here, we have that money flow freshly crossing into the red. We also had this big momentum wave, which made us say, well, hey, if money flow is in the red, we can look for a low, lower high, and an eventual lower low into our major key levels of support at $58,000. At that same time, we would set up for a very nice bullish divergence. Yes, we were looking for this confirmation all the way back here. And of course, with money flow being early in the red, it is not unlikely to say the highest probability here is to see that lower high come in for a major lower low. The reason I bring this up, well, of course, that ended up being the case to put in that bullish divergences where we were ready to look for longs. Went ahead and took that long, ended up playing out very nicely so far. But when we look at this, the reason I bring up that past price action is because here we do have now our 12 and 16-hour money flow starting to cross into the green. We have the daily money flow still pretty flat in the red here, guys. I mean, we're attempting to cross up. This is nothing to really write home about just yet, but when we look at the 12 and the 16 hour, oftentimes the way I like to see this play out is to have the slightly lower time frames bleed into the green, right? And then as you work up those higher time frames, the 16 hour follows, and then hopefully we can get that daily to follow. And that is what I'm going to look for to see if this is going to be, we have to be careful of the lower high, but I would say with this money flow being deep in the red, it's not like it's obvious, right? Like it was here, right? We're early in the money flow wave, very likely to see that lower low. Although we do have to still be cautious here because of the mixed signals I'm going to show you. It's not necessarily like, oh my God, huge warning side, guys. We're in the lower high zone. Money flow freshly crossed over into the red. That's not necessarily my sentiment here. So I would say I'm pretty cautiously optimistic with the bullish divergences on the daily. Money flow attempting to come up on the higher time frames. So I would say I'm cautiously optimistic, viewing this short as a little bit more of a hedge in case that lower high does come in, right, and that big dump hits us by surprise and we take out the lows. I want to be covered on that move. If I wind up getting stopped out of this and we continue the trend to the upside, I'm totally fine taking a small loss there. I've not taken profit. I've not moved my stop loss to break even just yet, so I will absolutely lose money if I get stopped out, but it will be a small controlled risk, and then the long will continue to pay me out. But at the end of the day here, guys, looking at the higher time frames, getting above number one, right? If we're looking for the lower high and lower low, 786 is the end of that zone. You have the weekly and weekly MPOC backing you up. If we don't put the lower high in here and we're able to flip above these levels, guys, 68K, obviously, flip the low. POC is next. Giving you that gravitational pull. And because the POC and value area low are so close to each other here, we could just look at this as one giant zone. From a trading perspective, right, I'm not going to ride my short all the way up to here. My stop loss is lower. But from a general kind of overall direction standpoint, I would say the 60, once we start flipping 65K, getting up in here, get above that weekly MPOC. POC of the range is very, very high probability. And then once we get out of that and flip this into support, guys, it is a pretty low resistance zone into our next level, which is at about $71,500. And that is just a lonely local daily MPOC. And then, of course, you know, we could see turbulence there within the profile, but at that point, we have to say to ourselves, if we get above this level and we see the money flow crossing up, coming towards that zero line, looking to cross into the green, if we get up to 71,500 and this money flow is about to cross green, that could very well look super, super bullish, at least for the medium time frames, looking for higher lows and eventual higher highs into that $75,000 to $77,000 major target to the upside. So we're kind of in a situation where, you know, I wouldn't say all the time frames are looking at like this is super high probability, but we are kind of set up here where, you know, it's kind of a 50-50 split. We have the high time frames, and I'm going to show you the mixed signals right now. High time frame, right? I would say between the 5 hour and the daily, right? So let me go ahead and just hide this real quick. When we look at this, right, in an ideal scenario, you have all the money flow coming up, leaking into the higher time frames, and I would say from the 5 hour and to the daily looks pretty good, right? Just make the money flow a little bit bigger here, zoom in, right? 5 hour money flow, you know, coming up very, very nicely. 6 hour money flow, attempting to cross into the green, 8-hour money flow, attempting to cross into the green, 10-hour money flow starting to crack into the green, 12-hour trying to crack, 16-hour trying to crack, and then hopefully we would, for the bulls, you would hope that all those time frames are going to leak into the daily and eventually get this to continue trending to the upside. This does not mean that we cannot get significant retracements. Of course, as I covered these major levels of resistance, more locally between the golden pocket 786 and then, the grander level being up here at 68K. I will cover those key levels to the downside, which I'm sure you guys can see on the chart right here. So, if we do have to get some kind of cool off, we could see an aggressive pullback through our local volume profile back down to the lows. Let me pull up that range real quick, right? Into the value area low, into our confluence. If we can hold this level, rotate back up, and eventually this money flow continues up, at that point, I would say you could be looking for that new high. So those are kind of the two situations. I would say right now, guys, with the mixed signals, it's very hard for me to say if I think we're just going to break out up first or if we're going to have to correct, reanalyze for the potential breakup. I do not know which one is going to come first. If I had clear signs, I'd be able to call for it. But again, people will say, if you don't know exactly which way it's going to go, how are you going to make money? Well, very simply put, I'm holding my long with profits locked in. If we break out, that's fine by me. I'll take a small loss on the short. Long will continue to pay me out, and then hopefully we can get the bigger move. And then, of course, if we come down, I am in the hedge short position. Worst case scenario, I'll stop out of the long in profit, and the short will continue to play out. But once we get down here, right, it's going to be all eyes on this higher time frame money flow. So biggest level of resistance, I would still say, because that 786 is confluent with the value area low, about 65.3 up to about $68,000 by our daily MPOC. Of course, this is all going to be resistance until proven otherwise. I am fully aware that although our 786 sits here, and this is typically where you're looking for the lower high, right? This is typically the highest you would want price to retrace before saying that that lower high is invalidated and you're looking for another move up. I'm fully aware, right? The market does have an element of randomness to it. It is not impossible if we want to come up here, still major resistance, maybe sweep out the highs and get a bigger rejection. Of course, once we get up here, I said this in the market update yesterday, if we push up and push into that daily MPOC, we'll reanalyze the charts, right? We'll reassess things. At that point, maybe money flow looks good, and it won't be until we get up here where until we get up here, I won't be able to say, I'm expecting a big rejection or I'm expecting to stay inside the range and continue up. But very simply put, all nuance aside, until we flip 68K into support, I wouldn't expect the big move up. If we do, absolutely beautiful. And until then, very cautious of the rejections back down. And then on the way back down, of course, we have this zone right here, covered the resistance levels. Now let's go ahead and cover the supports. Pull up the volume profile, jump on down to the 4-hour. Of course, right, just looking at this locally, if we're unable to break out of this volume profile, come back to the POC, back to the low, all eyes on the $60,000 zone. Number one, you have the full golden pocket value area low, and then just underneath that, right on the 786, we have a weekly MPOC, and a daily MPOC just underneath that. So if we go for a big retrace here, I would prefer to hold on top of these levels, right? Number one, golden pocket value area low. Number two, 786. If we're going to continue to put in higher lows and eventually see this move continue up, this is the biggest level to hold. Once we lose, I would say $59,000, pretty much this 786. You have to think to yourself, again, I do prefer the golden pocket to hold. I don't want to lose this volume profile. Once we get down to the 786, you have to be careful, especially if you slip the 786 into the daily MPOC. We have a lot of resistance here that could very well potentially turn into support that could very well turn into resistance, right? So on those bounces below the value area, we have to be careful. Of course, we'll have a better idea, right? If we come down and 4-hour money flow is crossing into the red, I'll probably be expecting this. If it doesn't look that bad, we could potentially expect the bounce. But just from a key level perspective, again, with the choppiness here on the money flow, looking at your 2-hour, trending out. Looking at your 1-hour, generally trending out. Looking at your 3-hour, coming up. 4-hour, looking somewhat weak here with momentum and money flow coming out. So again, this is the choppy time frames are really the lower time frames. I'd say between the 1 and the 4-hour, very, very hard to understand if we are going to continue a local trend or if we're going to have to go back for the bigger retrace. But, well, mouse is freaking out. Once you get up here, right, you're trying to get, all that noise off the chart. I mean, this looks good. Typically when 12-hour money flow crosses into the green, of course, we're about to print a red dot. These red dots on the 12-hour can give you significant pullbacks. That significant pullback brings us here, and this money flow still trends up. We can look for the higher low and the higher high. right? Then you would have, I guess, the pattern traders, inverse, head and shoulders, giving you a breakout up towards the inside of that volume profile. Of course, I would not pay attention to the head and shoulders, but I know it's just an easy way to describe price action. So biggest key level, guys, if we continue pulling back from here, if we can't get out of the value area, very simply put, biggest levels, 62,561 at the POC, and then down here between, I would say, 60,300 and 59K. We must hold here. Right? If we get stuck under here, money flow's coming out. I am expecting a breakdown below 57K into our next major levels of support, which bring us down to 57, believe 3. Yeah, 57.3 down to about 56.5. So we really just got to let time go by here, guys. Again, unfortunately, I like to come up here and be like, oh my God, all the money flow looks great, guys. I'm expecting the big breakout. I'm long for it. I've already taken profits, and I am, again, I think the best way to describe my sentiment is cautiously optimistic, right? I think it looks good. We just still got to be a little bit careful, right? If we get the pullback, we'll reassess the situation down here, and I'll check in with you guys, obviously, let you know if it looks terrible or if I'm looking for a higher low and a higher high. And then when we take this off, take all the volume profiles off the chart. Actually, first, let's take the key levels off the chart, right? From a context perspective, we're deviating below our larger volume profile. We have our major bullish divergences on the daily, and not just on the daily, guys. We also have a lot of high time frame bull divs, right? There's your daily, higher lows, lower lows, 2-day, higher lows, lower lows, 3-day, higher lows, lower lows, 4-day, right? Even more broadly here, lower lows, higher lows, right? So we are putting in major bullish divergences. So I would say you're set up here, right? And this is why I do talk about that $75,000 to $77,000 target, because these high time frame bull divs could potentially play out in a very big way. We're just kind of waiting for that money flow to catch up and continue crossing into the green. Other than that, there might be some low time frame noise here, but of course, we can use the lower profile as our low time frame noise perspective, right? Would I be longing, as I described yesterday, would I be longing directly into a value area high? Absolutely not. The only thing I would do is look for a short, and in fact, I did take the short. And I'm just using that to kind of trade the low time frame money flow. But when we zoom out, at the end of the day, it's like, well, hey, play around in this profile. Eventually, if we get the breakout and acceptance into our upper profile, well, guess what? There's your doorway to higher prices. Flip that, send it. Very simple. Biggest wall to the upside, biggest wall to the downside. Lose this, massive move down. Flip this, massive move up. In my opinion, right? Not financial advice, of course, as I always say. Not always say, always mean. So there you go. Other than that, I will just be watching this local profile, and it would be nice if we can get a little pullback here. See if we could print that 4-hour red dot. VWAP is starting to come down. Momentum consistently trending out. Money flow technically trending out. But again, I could just pull up the 2-hour and be like, look at that. Or I'm sorry, the 3-hour and be like, look at that. Beautiful. So definitely got those mixed signals. But again, you don't need super clear signals as long as you're positioned correctly like we are. To be honest, my favorite scenario would be to have the shorts. This is kind of weird, right? I prefer to just get stopped out of this short and get the big move up. That would be very, very nice. It would just be nice and simple. But let me jump in here. Shout out to Super Sammy. Thank you for the super chat, brother. I appreciate you. He said, you're the best, Frankie. Hey, man. Nah, you're the best. You're the best. Shout out to you, brother. Thank you for the super chat, man. And thank you for the kind words. And shout out to Clapjack, gifting those 5 Frankie Candles memberships. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Let's see. Is that a bottom confirmation? Well, this is another thing we can talk about here on the higher time frames, guys. At the end of the day, again, I am not here to call the bottom is guaranteed in, right? And I explain this a lot when we start to identify where the tops are. I am not, as a matter of fact, I am not as concerned, right? You guys will all know, if you've been here throughout the bull market, I was obviously not the person saying, don't worry, guys, bull market, this time's different. We're going up to 200K, right? Obviously, never going to be that guy, unless there's a reason to call for it. But I was also not saying, guys, when we're sitting here, I'm not saying, guys, don't sell. I would, first off, would never tell you what to do. But, I'm not sitting here being like, don't worry, guys, we're going to 126K, and then that will be the top, and then we will go down, right? You can't do that. It's pretty much impossible. But what we do is we identify the bearish confirmations, right? We look at the money flow as we get the rejection and the retracement. We identify, well, hey, guys, 2 days looking pretty bad. Weekly could very likely follow suit. Major bearish confirmations at the high. Weekly bearish divergence. Looks like 126K is more than likely going to be the top. Not at 126K. It was more around like 108 to 110K that we talk about that, which, not really much of a difference there when you look long term. But the when we talk about the bottoms coming in, there are some things that we can look at here, right? We have some potential really big weekly bullish divergences, right? Which, whether it marks the bottom, which it did mark the bottom back here in 2022, looking exactly the same, this is not guaranteed that the bottom is in, right? This is going to be more of a case, like I said, it wasn't at 126K that we said, hey, call the top, right? It is after we start to see a little bit of the development of those bearish signals, right? Even here, it's very hard for me to say, oh, weekly bullish divergence, guys, the bottom is definitely in, right? We could say, well, hey, there's a high probability based off timing of the cycle, etc. Obviously, the technical confirmations, but it really isn't until that that the bottom is in, right? Until you wind up getting the push back up, you start to move your way out of here, right? You start banging your head on this value area low of our previous range, and we say, well, hey, money flow starting to come back up on the weekly. We have the weekly bull div confirmed. It's looking pretty good. Right down here, we have a weekly bull div confirmed, but the money flow is still trending out, right? We don't know if that money flow is going to turn around. And when we're looking for the major trend, whether it's a bottom confirmation or not, a weekly bull div can very likely give you a big move up, even if it's going to end in a lower high and a lower low. You don't know whether you're expecting the lower high and a lower low until you can look at money flow, right? And as we come up in here into a resistance, money flow is pushing to the upside, right? This is an indication that these pullbacks are going to be lackluster for higher lows and higher highs. Once we get inside the range, we can look for the POC, which was sitting right here. Once we get above the POC, we can look for the high. Once we flip the value area high, we can look for those brand new, beautiful all-time highs. So it's going to be very similar on the way down here, right? We do have, right, factually, I can state this. It's not my opinion. We do have a potential weekly bullish divergence forming, right? So that would put us in a very similar situation to like right here, right? Not saying this has to be the bottom. It won't be until we can get a big scoot out of here, right? And start to identify the money flow, right? If that weekly money flow starts trending up, we have the daily money flow, the 2-day money flow, all the high time frame money flow starts creeping to the upside as we push up more. That's where we can say, well, hey, now I'm looking for higher lows and higher highs. Once we start cracking about $82,000, let's pull up the bull market support band real quick. See where that is, because we do use that as kind of a reference point right here. You shoot through the bull market support band, money flow starts coming up. You're looking for higher lows and higher highs. You flip the bull market support band, and it's pretty much off to the races from there, right? So I would say if we can get some kind of scoot to the upside here on these corrections, money flow starts coming up, we could say, well, hey, higher lows, flip that bull market support band. It may be off to the races. I'm not saying this has to be the low, right? I want to be very clear. It's not just the fact that we have the weekly bullish divergence forming and it's like, oh my God, the low is in. We still, we could look at this and be like, well, hey, we're not going to ignore that. But, of course, it's not going to be until you get the development of the money flow, the development of the price action a little bit later where you can say, well, hey, now this is looking like this could be the bottom. All right. And you kind of have the idea that those weekly bull divs could put in the bottom, but really the confirmation is the sign of strength, right? Which would be breaking above the bull market support band, cracking these highs, flipping the structure, and then you can look for the continuation up, assuming your money flow is continuing to the upside. Money flow indicates the overall trend. And to be fair, back here in 2022, right? If I just pull this back into bar replay mode, right, you start getting this push to the downside. To be fair, your money flow is coming out, right? So even here, right, and we perfectly positioned here in the CandleMafia for the next bull market. But at this point, I don't necessarily know for 100% fact that this weekly bull div is going to be the bottom. I know it's a high probability. I already know that I've been DCAing into the market based off these things, right? I'm not trying to catch the exact low. So I am dollar cost averaging in, dollar cost averaging in, dollar cost averaging in, right? And then once we start seeing that sign of strength, we're saying, well, hey, looks like we bought the bottom. And it's going to be very similar, even when we look for the tops to come in as well, right? It wasn't at 126K where I say, oh, my God, guys, we hit 126K, the top is in. We wait for a little bit of that development, right? And then we were very, very nicely able to get it right before that capitulation down that we expected. So it's going to be a very similar situation on the way to the upside, right? That's exactly how I'm going to handle it. So there you go. Little bit of high time frame. I will take a look at Ethereum, guys. We'll take a look at Cardano because we talked about some moves on Cardano last week that literally played out perfectly. I'm going to break down exactly how we were able to see that on the chart, and then I'll let you know where I think it's going next. But yeah, that's kind of the long-term thought process here. I mean, not only do you have the weekly bull divs looking to confirm, another reason why I was very suspicious, right, of this being the low, right? Not that I wasn't interested in dollar cost averaging in or, saying, hey, we're 50% off the highs. You're not buying the top anymore. But one of the reasons I did not love this low was that it was just on capitulation, right? We had no bullish confirmations. Of course, we did take a long position here at the bottom of our value area, riding this, making a bunch of money on that move to $82,000, $83,000. But it was very hard, right? When we capitulated down here, it's very hard for me to say, like a lot of people just say, like, Frankie, do you think that was the bottom? It's very hard for me to say that from a technical perspective because there's no confirmation here, right? There is no daily bullish divergence, no weekly bullish divergence. To be fair, like we didn't even have like low time frame confirmations, right? Like this was just a major drop to the downside, right? I guess you had 45-minute bull divs, but not what I'm looking for the bottom of the bear market. And that's why I stayed open-minded the rest of the year for a potentially new low to come in, because that would allow us, we talked about this when we were up here. Once we wind up coming down here, what will we be looking for? Major high time frame bull divs like the weekly, the daily, etc. And not only do we have the potential weekly forming, but we also came down here giving that more local confirmation of the daily bull div. So now we can say, again, this doesn't guarantee the bottom is in, but we can have a reason to, even if it ends up being a lower high and lower low, daily bull div gave us the idea that we can make money on this push to the upside. Right? Daily bull div is very unlikely to give you nothing, right? Money flow is what indicates the trend, right? But the green and red dots can give you the idea of the ebbs and flows. And we already made money on this move. Now we're just hoping that money flow can shape up. And once it does, we can expect a bigger trend to the upside. So hopefully that makes sense to you. But now we're starting to see those bullish divergences on all these higher time frames. Again, doesn't mean that we can't eventually pull our full fib here, and I'll pull up the key levels as well. I'll pull up the weeklies. I'm just going to pull up the weeklies and the monthlies, the high time frames. When we look at this from a key level perspective, where are our biggest traps in the market? Well, right now, from a high time frame perspective, it'd be sitting down here to about $54,000. To the upside, again, flip that weekly and weekly MPOC. Where's the next major confluence on high time frame levels? Well, it's sitting up here between $76,000, which is, again, that big target to the upside we talked about. And even when we get up here, guys, right, like this is the 786 Fibonacci retracement. So, if that weekly money flow is still tanking into the red, you could say to yourself, maybe this is going to be a lower high for a lower low. But again, based on the 2-day, the 3-day, the 4-day, once we get up here, we'll have a better idea. I'll have what I'm looking at to anticipate if I think this is going to make us capitulate into a new low or not. So really taking it level to level. But I would say, like, from a cycle perspective, if we get a push up here, still a little bit shady, I guess. But again, where is that big sign of strength? It's going to be popping above that high, flipping this into support. I think that is really going to be the kind of area where we could start to confirm, like, hey, guys, I think that was the bottom. But we start to get a little, suspicious down here. And again, it's not about catching the low. You might say to yourself, well, if you're not going to confirm the bottom is in until you get up here, like, that's useless. I would have to correct you, right? Because, of course, dollar cost averaging in on the way down is okay, right? If we wind up scooting up and we get an earlier bottom, well, beautiful, right? We can say, hey, the bottom's in. Thank God I was dollar cost averaging in here. If we continue down, I am happy to continue buying lower. So there you go. That's my overall thought process here on the higher time frames. All right, let's see here. Shout out to Super Sammy. Thank you for the super chat. Said Darren. Darren does things you're amazing too. Shout out to DDT, baby. Shout out to Darren. He's amazing. He helps us out in the premium Discord a ton. Shout out to Darren. He's in here. Shout out to Darren. Captain Kirk in the chat as well. Welcome in, Cap. OG of the Candle Mafia. Candle Mafia Mama, we call her. Shout out to, I don't even know how to say that. But he says people really gonna have to explain to their kids why they didn't buy at 60K. I mean, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, guys, I think, as I've said throughout the entire year, right? 2026 bottom watch. I think if you're worried about starting to buy Bitcoin down here because it could go down here, I just think you're missing the forest for the trees, right? Oh my God, I bought here. I bought here. I bought here. I bought here. Oh my God, we went lower, right? It's like at the end of the day, when you're up at $120,000, you're going to look down here and say, hey, I accumulated at the right spot. This is, and I guess it could get confusing, right? Because this is much different than my leverage trading strategies, right? My leverage trading strategies are try to pinpoint the bottom. But when it comes to accumulation, you just have to ask yourself, it's very hard to snipe the bottom of the big move. And again, I point to my actual analysis up here that I do live with you guys at the top, right? I never said 126K was the top when we tapped it. It's not until you see that, right? But does that help us? Is that useless? Absolutely not. It's the most useful thing ever, right? You could argue, hey, I sold the top, right? Sure, I didn't sell 126K. I sold closer to like 108 to 110. But at the end of the day, after this big capitulation down, right, I am extremely happy. And looking back in hindsight, it's like I sold the top, right? I don't care that I missed it by a few bucks. Same thing down here. Average entry price at $21,000. I think it was actually like $20,800, but whatever. Let's say $21K, right? I'm not up at $126,000 being like, dang, man, I should have bought down here. I bought too early. No. I bought the bottom, right? Even if I like got in up here, like you essentially bought the bottom. That's how I think of the long-term bags, and I think it's a good way to kind of view the markets from that long-term perspective, because the other flip side of that coin is to say, no, we have to go down to X target, and then you wait to buy that, which is great if it comes in, right? Well, beautiful. Hopefully, me personally, I believe most people will wait for that level. Once you get down to that level, they'll just go, never mind. I think we're going to go lower. I'm not buying here either. They get greedy. Just like they get greedy on the way up, they get greedy on the way down. And you have to ask yourself the question, like, what if I don't hit that target? Where am I going to buy? Hopefully you have a plan, right? It's okay if you have a plan, right? If we front run my level down here and we break, whatever, this level, I'll start to buy in because that's just a sign of strength or something like that. But you do have to ask yourself, what happens if your target doesn't get hit? Because I had targets down here that didn't get hit between 12 and 14K. I still bought the bottom, right? If we went down to 12 to 14K, I would continue to dollar cost average in, giving me a lower average entry price, right? So just food for thought for those long-term bags, guys. And again, we are seeing a lot of the structural things, the technical indicators, even some of the on-chain metrics starting to say that we are building out a bottom, whether this is the low or we have to continue down a little bit more. This is historically, throughout the cycles of Bitcoin, not been a bad time to start accumulating. Not for you, but just explaining to you why I do what I do. So there you go. Let's see. When you think it's going to top, how much do you sell in general? 80% of your bag. Shout out to George. Well, I kind of have like different bags. I guess I would separate it like this, right? I have my like active income, right? Which is me trading actively every day, right? And that is a lot of work, right? I have to do the analysis every day, look for the setups, manage the positions, etc. This is the smallest portion of my portfolio, right? This is a small portion of my capital. I grow that capital, and then I use those profits. Some of those profits I'll roll back into my spot bags, etc. But that's like my smallest amount of capital, right? Then I have my swing trading, I guess you can call it, like multi-year swing trading, or I call it my cycle portfolio, which is where I am trying to buy the lows of the bear market, sell around the top of the bull market, buy around the bottom of the bear market, sell around the top of the bull market, right? Those are like my cycle bags. And then I do have a portion of Bitcoin that is super long-term. I'll hold it for 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is, that I don't sell, right? So up here, I sold a majority of my Bitcoin, but I do have a few that I'm just going to kind of hold on to long-term and maybe give it to my kids. Hopefully Bitcoin doesn't go to zero, and I'm handing them off Bitcoins, multiple Bitcoin that are worth, maybe 7 figures. I don't know. So that's kind of how I do it. I would never recommend, right? You could do whatever you want. I think a lot of people get confused. If I'm long in a bear market, they're like, why is this guy long? He's an idiot. He's going to get wrecked, right? But my short-term leverage trading bags are, I'm just looking to capitalize on these little retracements, make some money, and then ride those trends to the downside, shorting them, right? But I am not, selling my spot Bitcoin up here, buying spot Bitcoin, selling spot Bitcoin, buying spot Bitcoin, selling spot Bitcoin, right? I am selling spot Bitcoin, letting the bear market play out, and then starting to grab a little bit as I think we're coming close to building out a bottom. Does that make sense? I have a lot of people in my personal life that, they buy Bitcoin and they're like, dude, I think I'm going to sell it. I just put 100 grand in. Now I have 120 grand. I'm going to sell it and wait for it to dip and buy it again. And they're usually doing this, right? My normal, normie friends and family are usually buying on the way up, and they're like, I'm going to sell it here. I'm going to buy the dip. And, I would say 5 of those people that told me they were doing that, I advised against it. I said, hey, man, throw some money, throw some separate money for those trades and just hold your spot Bitcoin until we look like we're making a macro top. I would say 5 out of 5 of those people would come back to me and like, you were right, man. That's way too emotional. I can't do that. I'm just going to hold it long term. Like, good choice. So there you go. There you go. Shout out to Octorati. I don't know how to say that name. I apologize. Said, got to do your own research and Google, folks. Frankie can't do it all for us. Yeah, shout out. I mean, of course, we give a lot of the technical levels and stuff here and my overall thought process, which, even when things play out, guys, I will still tell people, like, I don't want to be the guy that it's like, yes, we talked about this exact bottom forming on the weekly bull div. Average entry price, $21,000. I talked about averaging in on the way down, exactly as I am talking here. But once that bull market comes in, guys, I am not just going to be like, guys, I called the bottom last time. Just do exactly what I'm doing. I would never want that. Because, of course, I've been trading these markets long enough. What is it called? Dunning-Kruger effect? Is that what it is? I've been trading these markets long enough to understand that the market will humble you just as fast as it blows up your head. Anything can happen, right? I have been wrong before. I will be wrong again. That is just the reality of statistics, right? I'm not right 100% of the time. And, if I just think it's a bad investment strategy to just listen to what somebody is saying and just follow them, right? Because their plan can be completely different, right? Someone can watch me say, hey, the bottom of Bitcoin's coming in right here. They buy a bag, and then they have no idea what they're looking for the top, right? And then they hold their bag all the way back down. Yeah, obviously. I think most people get that, right? You want to use it as a assistance, right? You could take our analysis, and I know, again, even when things play out perfectly exactly as we describe, right, I always explain the other side of it, right? Because I fully understand that the market, like right now, right, I talk about our big key levels of support, our massive high time frame confirmations. I explain what I think that means. I explain how I am personally navigating that situation, but I totally know, right, that Bitcoin can break through all this resistance, right? The stock market can get a big, huge correction, something can break in the stock market, and maybe Bitcoin goes down to 36, 40, or maybe even $30,000, right? I know that is possible, right? But you have to have a plan for that. And I could be wrong, right? Maybe I lose money. Obviously, it didn't happen previously. But of course, yeah, I like to show my work. I don't just like to say like, oh my God, guys, we're bouncing. It's bullish, right? I like to show you exactly what we're looking at, how it has played out in the past, not only through 2022, but also 2018, 2015, etc. Let's see. I hope that happens. Shout out to going down to 30K. I mean, yeah, I say it all the time, right? If that happens, I will sell my physical belongings to buy more Bitcoin down there. And again, I wouldn't say it's impossible, right? Like I always say there's 2 major ways this can play out, guys. I am fully aware that there are a lot of things that say, even if we go lower, if we bottom out anywhere around here, right? There are a lot of things based on the 4-year cycle that would say that is not likely. Right, timing, percentage drawdown, etc. So there's just 2 ways to. It's factual, right? Just because it looks like we're starting to build out a bottom here does not mean that it has to happen, right? There are 2 things that can happen here. 4-year cycle just repeats. Bottom comes in October. In that case, you are expecting this to play out, right? Massive capitulation continues, absolutely nuking you down from, let's just say, where we are right now, roughly. You're expecting a 54% capitulation in about 112 days. Is that possible? Sure. And that would be the 4-year cycle playing out absolutely perfect, right? Bringing you down to about 30K, right? It's a technical target. But again, right, it's like I feel like everybody's looking for 30K. And that is, I don't make my decisions based off this, right? It's not just the fact that everyone's looking for 30K. But usually the level that everyone looks for does not get hit. 100K, 150K, 8K, right? Like these levels never get hit. And then on top of that, right, I back that up for myself, right, looking at the technicals, right? How do I know if this is going to be super likely or not, right? And again, high probability is not 100%, right? And even a 90% probability, there's still 10% that what you're looking for doesn't play out. So, you're either looking for the 4-year cycle to continue playing out, which again, you would expect about $30,000 that would line up, that would fix the kind of deviations that we have from the cycle right now. If we put the low in here, it's only a 70-something% correction, or I'm sorry, not even close. It's only about what is it, like a 50, maybe a 60% correction if we come down a little bit more. It's not really what you would expect if it plays out like the previous bear markets, right? If the bottom is in right now, it'd be a lot earlier than we've seen the bottoms come in. So I am still open to new lows coming in. It's just really watching that. Like, I'm not buying until 30K, right? You do have to ask yourself, like, if you were looking for 30K, I genuinely hope you get it, right? I want everybody to get what they want, right? But you have to ask yourself, like, what if that doesn't happen, right? Do I have a plan? Hopefully you do. And if you do, awesome. That's great. And then obviously the other way it can play out is that all the technical confirmations end up playing out coming into the major levels of support where we have historically bottomed out on the confirmations that have historically given us the bottom. And then you get a little bit of an earlier bottom, or, this could potentially bring you into September, October as well, depending on how long you go sideways. And then we'll just look back at this cycle being like, oh, that was the one where we didn't get the 70+% correction. I don't know which way it's going to play out, but I positioned myself here where I buy in on my weighted dollar cost averaging. If we go lower, I'm happy to buy lower, right? And then let's say we do go down to 30K, right? Let's say we go down to 30K and my average entry price ends up being 40K, right? When we're up at $200,000, right, or 150, whatever it is, right? Am I going to care that my average entry price is here and not here? Personally, no. It's the exact situation that happened here. I don't care, right? I capitalized on the bulk of the move, which is the goal, right? And then, again, it kind of eliminates some of that emotional aspect, right? Like, I see this play out constantly, and I've gone through it myself where it's like, I'm not going to buy here, I'm going to wait for lower. Then it goes lower, it feels super bearish, and you're thinking to yourself, you know what, like, good thing I didn't buy earlier, this is super bearish now, like, and then you got everyone and their grandma saying everything's going to zero, don't buy it, and then you start to fall into the trap and you wind up buying on the way up. I personally have done that and decided not to do that in this cycle. I wound up loving that decision, and I'm going to do the same thing here, right? I do not care about sniping the bottom. As long as I'm generally in that accumulation area. So those are the two ways it could play out. I am optimistic for something like this. But if that does not happen, I'm not going to be totally wrecked or upset, right? I'm just going to see it as an opportunity, as a continuation down, right? If we start pushing up, I'm exposed, right? Hey, if the bottom's in, that's great, right? If we continue down, awesome. Another opportunity to buy. Not, oh my God, I'm scared to buy. Like, I'm kind of feel like I hope for that, right? Because now I can get a lower average entry price. So it kind of does two things, right? It puts you in a safer position, and it also eliminates some of those emotions, making that key level. If we go down to 30K, I'm going to be begging to buy that, right? Especially if I started buying higher. So there you go, right? Everyone's got a different plan. Yeah, what if we don't hit 37K? You got to ask yourself that question. If we don't hit 37K for me personally, well, I'm already exposed, right? Let's say we go down to 41K, right? And then we don't hit 37, right? Everyone waiting for 30K is going to be like, oh my God, we're going to continue down. I'm not going to buy. We're going to continue down. I'm not going to buy. And then they wind up buying on the way up, right? And again, I say this from experience. I see other people do it. I've done it myself personally. It's like a psychological trap. So yeah, so for me right now, all I do is I take it level to level. We have massive, massive, massive support underneath us. I'm going to identify what happens into that support and take it from there. Once we start losing those key levels, I will start looking at those lower targets as opportunities to buy more. So there you go. Let's see, DCA for the win. Yeah, 100%, man, especially for long-term bags. And again, if you want to try to snipe the bottom, it's a free world. You could try it. Can we go lower and the weekly bull div still plays out? Yeah, it really all depends, right? The biggest levels underneath us, again, I'll pull them up, right? All the way down here to this value area high, and really the level I would look at for a huge sign of weakness would be, right, let's say we dig back into these lower levels, still massive support, right? We have the 300-week moving average coming in there as well. Right? Massive support, historically, areas where it has not been a bad time to buy Bitcoin. Right? If you buy at or near the 300-week moving average, it is not a bad time to buy Bitcoin. Buy at or near the 300-week moving average, not a bad time to buy Bitcoin. We are now at or near the 300-week moving average. Right? Doesn't mean you can't lose this and go lower. But again, if you, especially when you're putting massive confirmation like a weekly bull div into that level, let's say we get another capitulation down, right? it all depends on if that weekly bull div is still there, right? If we wind up coming down, you get a bounce, you reclaim, lower lows, let's say it looks like that, right? You still have that weekly bullish divergence forming. The only way this would really get invalidated is, if you're looking for 30K, just say whatever, massive capitulation down, $30,000, right? If this momentum wave is down here, well, there's no bullish divergence, right? So it'd be really hard, until this wave breaks this wave or that wave, right? And until we don't have higher lows on the momentum waves. And we really only had one significant weekly bull div on Bitcoin, and it was back here in 2022 that marked the bottom. But you can see here, right? Maybe, just to show some history here, right? I'm not only here to have one side, right? I am very open to, if I saw legitimate information that called for not just one thing or two things versus 50 bullish signs, if I saw something that dramatically made me think and go, wow, now we can say the statistical higher probability is a move down to 30K, I will flip on a dime. Are you kidding me? I hope to flip faster than later, right? But when you look here, right, come back into bar replay mode. If you we're just comparing to 2022. You compare it back here to 2018, right? And I'm going to show you why this isn't really a perfect example. But let's just say, I don't know if you really printed a weekly bull div. Yeah, you just wind up getting like the big capitulation. See here, right? Let's just say, weekly bull div, right? Well, there's a couple of things that don't line up here. Number one, your weekly money flow is just starting to cross into the red, which typically points towards a massive capitulation, right? But if this ended up bouncing a little bit, right, and then we made a new low, which isn't exactly what happened, but let's just say we get the big capitulation, right? There's no weekly bull div here. Right? So no real bullish confirmation. And of course, you had that weekly money flow crossover indicating the big capitulation into the bear market. When we compare this to the other cycles, right, it is the exact same thing. Right? If you're looking, and I'm not saying that, if you look at it back here from like more of a cycle perspective, you could think like, well, maybe we're here before that big capitulation down, right? Because if you measure this is down, I guess it was already down like 69%, right? If you're thinking that we're right here in the cycle and you're looking for that big capitulation down to 30K, right? Wiggling around, big capitulation down to 30K. There's a few things that don't line up there, right? Number one, weekly money flow was just starting to cross into the red, which points towards that big capitulation. Weekly money flow just crossing into the red, big capitulation. Talked about this back here in 2022. Also talked about it more recently right here in 2025. Weekly money flow about to cross red, big capitulation. Money flow about to cross red, big capitulation. Money flow about to cross red, big capitulation. Right? It's the first money flow crossover in the bear market that typically gives you that big dump. We've already had that come in, right? So again, I would argue we're more closer to something like in here than something like right here, right? Right here in the market was very clearly right here in the market. It was identical to what we saw in the past. Everybody calling for higher lows, 100K incoming. Oh my God, higher lows. So many people would say to me, how are you looking at this as bearish? This is a higher low. Don't you understand market structure? Yes, I understand market structure. One thing I understand about market structure is not all higher lows are created equal, right? When money flow is coming out like it was here, this higher low is very much more likely to end up being a lower high, changing that trend, giving you the big capitulation. Lackluster retracement, changing the trend to big capitulation. Into big capitulation, right? So to me, right, structurally, this was more like this. This was more like this. And this is more like something in here. I don't know if we got another drop or if the bottom is in, but it does look more likely. And then you start bringing up the high time frame supports like the 300-week moving average, talk about the weekly bullish divergence. It just says to me, hey, I'm down to start biting, right? There you go. And then anything underneath here, I would see as like a black swan opportunity to pick up super cheap Bitcoin. Again, not telling you to follow me. That's just my thought process and the information to back it up, right? Showing what I'm actually talking about. Let's see. I'm just here for the socks. Shout out to Clap. I don't know exactly what that means. I am wearing socks. Oh yeah, the Head and Shoulders. I don't know exactly. And again, right, I already covered the bearish case. But yeah, I mean, I guess let's pull up the monthly. Whoops. Left head, left shoulder, right head. Left shoulder, just a normal head. Right shoulder, right? Something like this. There's your neckline. Here's your measured move. Don't measure your moves with a brush, right? Oh, 27, 30K, right? I mean, that's a valid thing, right? Like, that is the measured move of that Head and Shoulders. Fact. Whether it plays out or not is another thing. I totally see this, right? Like, I don't think it's, I don't think you're crazy for looking at that. Again, I'm not a pattern trader, but I guess you could kind of maybe compare that to something like this. I would not look at this as a Head and Shoulders, but let's just see what the measured move of this structure is. You know, definitely not there. But again, there's a lot of stuff that was happening here, or there's a lot of stuff that's happening here that was not happening here, right? Two things can be true at the same time. Again, I would not say that's a Head and Shoulders, but just for example, right? Like when we got this big capitulation down, what was going on, right? We were coming off the back of a big bull market, big money flow wave in the green on the weekly. Money flow is about to cross red, major breakdown of the structure. This already happened, right? So there you go. But yeah, I do see that Head and Shoulders. I would say that is, I guess, a valid Head and Shoulders. I wouldn't say it's invalid. Definitely looks like that could be the case. And again, like, what would I say is, that is a scenario that could play out, right? And like I explained before with the fractals that I brought up, again, maybe that does happen. I'm prepared for that if it does happen. Yeah, everybody just wants to know, like, where's the bottom? Where should I buy? What number should I buy at, right? Well, I won't know until we hit the level. And even then, right, I would not be looking at that as, like, I'm going to put all my money in here, right? It's all about the dollar cost average. DCA is the way. Look on the weekly, the Head and Shoulders is slanted. Yeah, I don't know. It's always hard to see, like, what people are looking at, like, in a chat and then portray it on the chart. Something like that. Also giving you about a $30,000 target. But again, right, whether you're looking at this as, whatever, if you're looking for that big capitulation, we have a lot of room to capitulate down to that 300 week. Up here, we had a lot of room to capitulate into that 300 week. It's just, it has never been the case where you capitulate all the way through that 300 week, right? Bottom's in. I mean, bottom was in before we even hit the 300 week. We retested it. We don't have information for that last cycle, but yeah, I mean, again, two things to be true at the same time. Everyone wants like a definitive answer, and I'm here to tell you, as someone who has bought the bottom, sold the top, trades every day, that is not as much of the name of the game as you think it is. So yeah, I would definitely, just looking at that, say, potentially that could be valid. But there are also things that point against that, right? We're potentially going to print weekly bullish divergences down here. That is, very simply put, not a place where I would look for capitulation down. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean, again, with the patterns, it's like, maybe we're gonna, where was that inverse head? Yeah, like maybe we're gonna form an inverse Head and Shoulders right here, right? And then it's another pump to the upside. It's, again, patterns are not something that I trade alone, right? Not all patterns are, it's just like every high or low is not created equal. Every pattern's not going to be created equal either, right? Like a bear flag, perfect example right here. Frankie, isn't this a bear flag? Yes, absolutely. It's like as textbook of a bear flag as you can get, right? Super bear flag. Do I look at that and say, oh my God, this is a bear flag, it's going to dump? No, I still am looking for the dump, but it's not because of the bear flag, right? You can look at it as maybe like an extra confluence or like just a way to describe the bearish consolidation. But the reasons I looked for this capitulation down through our massive low volume gap, literally to 60K, gets tapped to the dollar. The reason we were able to call this was based on money flow and volume, right? Not some shape on the chart. You will have price, oh my God, bear flag, oh my God, bear flag. Right now, whether you want to argue this played out as a bear flag or not, I guess you could squeeze this into playing out if you really wanted to. But there's your bear flag. Roughly, people would be thinking, oh my God, we're going to break down out of the bear flag, 30K, right? Or, oh my God, we're going to reject and break down out of the bear flag. What happens? You squeak up. Whether you want to consider that, part of the bear flag or not, I think it's a stretch. But like, here's a perfect example of like, yes, does this look like a bear flag? Yes. Does that mean that I am not going to look for a move to the upside? No. We longed this sucker looking for a breakout. People brought this bear flag up and they're like, dude, you're long in the bottom of a bear flag. Why would you look for a break of the highs? Very simple. Money flow coming up. I got my technical confirmations into a key level. I made money. Right? So it's not just the pattern. Sometimes someone will say, hey, look at this bear flag. I'll be like, yeah, I think that's probably going to play out based on other factors, right? Here, people say, do you think it's going to play out? I'd be like, not really, right? And again, marking that bear flag like this. You could say this is a fake out, but either way, we look for a break of the highs based off other stuff. So you could trade patterns. You just have to combine it with other things. So yeah. Let's see. Shout out to Master Kuzi. Thank you for the super chat. Said, since we're talking about head and shoulders, figured I'd also point out the clear weekly head and shoulders on MicroStrategy. Thoughts on that one? We could take a look at that, and then I'll jump into some of the altcoins. Let's take a look here. Weekly head and shoulders on MicroStrategy. I see what you're looking at. Again, I am not a pattern trader, so like I don't really know like many of like I'm sure if you talk to someone who's like super into patterns, and this is not to say you can't make money trading patterns, guys. Like you could totally make money trading patterns. I just recommend you use other things to confirm those patterns. Left, head, right, breakdown. I'm sure you can find somebody that would say like, oh my God, this is an impulse or something, like this is too much of a percentage to count. I don't know. But if you're looking at that as a head and shoulders, what I can do for you is pull the technical target, which I guess you would kind of draw like this, pull from the high to the low, breakdown. MicroStrategy is going to 0. I'm kidding. But yeah, again, I'm not a pattern trader. So, but yeah, I do see that. Let's see, potential weekly bullish divergence. We did front run this support. Just again, not something I look at to predict the price action. But I do see what you're looking at. In which case, I guess you could say your technical target would be roughly about $28. Possible? Sure. Just not typically how I do my analysis. You do have this big volume profile down here. Weekly money flow still in the red. Potential weekly bull div. And again, these weekly bull divs are nothing. Right? I won't say nothing, right? But like they are only lackluster until money flow starts following suit, right? The money flow is what helps you understand the trend change. The bull div is more what makes you anticipate the reaction. And I said I would get into the altcoins, and I'm going to use this topic to kind of push into Cardano, right? We talked about this on recent live streams. We had the, whoops, let me pull it up over here. We had the high time frame bullish divergences forming. Lower lows on our price action, higher lows on our momentum waves. This is indicative of some kind of reversal. Whether that reversal is the bottom for a massive trend change, or if it is just a local reversal for a macro lower high and a macro lower low, is a totally different argument, right? Again, like I said, these high time frame bull divs are very unlikely to give you nothing. There's the 2-day bull div. 3-day had the bull div on the momentum waves. You didn't get the green dot, but you also did have the daily bull div, very similar to Bitcoin, right? Now, this is nothing. I don't want to say nothing, right? But like this is no more than a potentially bigger retracement until your money flow can continue up, right? The money flow indicates the overall trend. The red and green dots, aka bullish divergences here, are only looked at for immediate moves. Ebbs and flows. Ebbs and flows. Money flow is what indicates the overall trend, right? Money flow crosses into the red here. At that point, right, when you, I mean, this is crazy, but once you retrace, money flow is in the red, you expect the downtrend to continue. When it crosses green, you are going to be looking for higher lows and higher highs. When it crosses red, you're looking for lower highs and lower lows. Lower highs, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. Does that make sense? So when it goes back to Bitcoin here, that weekly bull div is not completely proven as, again, a bottom signal. I would have to wait for more development there to kind of confirm that. But it is something that we see those bottoms come in on. So it's very worth watching, in my opinion. And, you know, taking a look at Cardano here, if you watched the live stream the other day, we saw those bull divs. We brought up these monthly MPOCs as the biggest key level to break above. Once we flip the monthly MPOCs, get back inside the value area. Value area high would be the next major level to look at. And I don't even know if you even got a reaction there. Just kind of, well, yeah, I guess you did. Low time frame. Break above, flip it into support. Once you get outside of that value area, the next major level to look at is very similar to like the $68,000 level on Bitcoin, right? Get above the monthlies, potential move into your value area high. Once you get out of the value area high, you're going to be looking for the daily and the top of this low volume gap, 18 to 19 cents. Now, to be fair, I did not necessarily expect this to happen so fast, but that was get above these monthlies. This was the biggest level to get above. It was major support on the way down, and it's going to be major resistance on the way up. Once you flip it, you're above the major resistance, send it up into your next targets. And now we're getting a pretty harsh rejection from that daily and top of the low volume gap. So I would say right now, key levels to watch on Cardano, watch his volume profile underneath us. Biggest level is the value area high. If you cannot hold this value area high, get accepted underneath. Very likely fill down to the POC and the value area low. Let's take a look at the daily. Daily red dot about to print. So it does look like if you print that red dot, you could continue down. Really want to hold on top of that value area high. Once you lose it, I'd say your biggest level, see if this golden pocket 786 is confluent with your value area low. Look at that. That's kind of weird, huh? So I would say if you get a bigger pullback on Cardano, if you can't hold on top of the value area high, look for the fill into the value area low. And I'd say this is your biggest level of support. Value area low, golden pocket, also retesting that major resistance on the way up, potentially flip it into support for a potential higher low and higher high. Whether it's going to be a higher low and higher high depends on your money flow. And I would say right now, the daily money flow is continuing out. So really you want to see all this money flow trending up to see if this stuff is going to continue to the upside. Once you lose the golden pocket, I would start to flip a bit more bearish. Your last resort level is going to be the 786 at about 15 cents. Once you lose that, obviously, I'd be looking to take out the lows. So, you know, we'll see what these daily red dots can give us. We also have one printing on about to print on Bitcoin. VWAP coming down. Once we print that red dot, could cause the pullback. We're watching that $60-ish thousand level as the key level of support. On Cardano, that similar level is sitting between about 16 cents and 15 cents. So we'll see what happens. What if money flow is at the zero line? Shout out to Morningstar Watcher. I don't know if you want to clarify that question. What if money flow is at the zero line? For money flow, it is always more about the trend of the money flow, right? Two major things, right? The crossover and the trend, right? Like, and more often than not, what I like to see for a clean money flow, like if I'm looking for a major uptrend to turn into a major downtrend, what I like to see is money flow at least spending a decent amount of time in the red, in one side or the other, right? So let me actually take off some of these, keep the zero line. Let me just take off some of these levels just to make it a little simpler to look at, right? So right here, we have a daily money flow crossover into the green. That money flow crossover gives you a nice big green wave. You get a nice continuation up. Right, you get a little fake out here, but generally this is trending out, right? Once you get that first crossover, warning sign. You may be switching trends to the downside, right, or trend to a downtrend. Meaning, move down, On that push back up, you're looking for lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. Not counting the wick as the low, right? I'm talking about the bodies of the candles. Right, then you have a big red wave, which, of course, we have been in the red for quite some time. It'll fake out into the green, back into the red. We've spent quite a lot of time in the red here. So if you have a nice, let's say you have a nice big green wave like this, and it starts to cross over, right? Money flow is at the 0 line, meaning it's about to cross over. If it is if you are crossing into the red after a very clean green wave like this, in my opinion, it might be time to start spending some time in the red, right? Continuing that downtrend. Nice clean big wave into a nice big clean wave. So if money flow is at the 0 line, that is going to be indicative of the trend change, whether it's to the downside or to the upside. Now, this is different when money flow is just chopping around, right? If I have money flow, for instance, on like Bitcoin here, let me find where we're chopping around. Let me just find like a super, super choppy area. Like right here, right? Like you're in the red, you're in the green, you're in the red, you're in the green. Like I would still point towards trend, right? Because like if you were in a big red wave, let's just say here's your 0 line. Let's say you're in a big red wave, and then money flow is just going red, green, red, green, red, green, red, green. This is just kind of like a mixed signal. Now, I do kind of lean in this scenario. I would lean towards it being higher probability because of the trend to cross to the upside. So I would say like when money flow is at the 0 line, it's not necessarily always a signal. But what I do is look back at the previous wave. So like here, we're kind of chopping around the 0 line. If I had to favor one direction, for the 1 hour, right? This doesn't change the cycle or anything. But I would say if we cross back into the red here, I would say this is generally trending out over time. Sometimes money flow is just chopped around on the 0 line, and money flow is just totally unreadable. Here, I would say you have a nice green wave, potentially turning into a nice red wave. So, money flow being at the 0 line is not really indicative of anything unless it's going with the trend of money flow. Does that make sense? So, big red wave, big green wave, about to cross over. That's really the sign you're looking for. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully I didn't butcher that. Shout out to Clapjack. Thank you for the super chat, bro. Said the 57.8 call was straight sauce. Yeah, of course, right? At the end of the day, when it comes to trading, right, I'm just waiting for those key levels, looking for the confirmations, of course. I don't know if you just saw that level here on the live stream or if you were actually following along in the premium Discord where we literally, right, I'll bring it up just to show that this is not just all hindsight analysis. We patiently wait for these key levels, guys. Trading is a game of trapping, not a game of hunting, as I say every single day, and we'll continue to say for many streams to come. Where's that original setup here? Right, and I covered this over the past few live streams, right? I want that monthly MPOC tapped at least, right? And then once we came down there, we had the specific confirmations we were looking for eventual lower highs and lower lows into the key level. We found the local confirmations. We went ahead and took that trade. Played out absolutely beautiful, right? Even if I stop out and profit on this, still a beautiful trade. I'm making money. So there you go. Hopefully that cleans that up. And shout out to Clapjack. I assume you made some money on that 57.8 monthly MPOC. Let's go. All right, let's see here. Thank you, Frankie. I understand. Shout out to Morningstar Watcher. There you go. Hopefully that makes sense. And you're just very simply put, not just always going to have a very clear signal, right? Like sometimes, I wish it was as easy as just getting money flow, waiting for the crossover, and just printing money every single time. Of course, that's never going to be the case. You are going to have, mixed signals, etc. But like even here, right? Very simply put, to drop some educational sauce. And again, we did this live, right? But just to show anyone who may have not been here, we look at this value area, right? We come into the low. Those are our key levels. We get the confirmations. We take the long and the premium. The thought process for this trade is we're at a low. When you deviate below the low, that is looked at as cheap price action. If you get the confirmations you need to see, you could take that trade. Very high probability if you get inside the value area to hit the POC. Check it off. Beautiful. As long as we hold inside the value area low, flip the POC, value area high is the next likely target, check it off the list. At this point, maybe you took a 20% take profit here, 20% take profit here. Should you hold the rest of this as a swing trade? Well, this is where we look at money flow. Money flow is in a nice red wave, about to cross green. This looks good for an overall continuation of the uptrend, which is why we looked for this to break out rather than have the bear flag, break us down, right? I don't know how people trade patterns blind, right? Like if I were trading this, right? I know this is kind of sloppily drawn, but if I were trading this as a bear flag, right? Like, how do I know if this is going to play out and break down or if it's going to break up, right? Well, you don't know. You're kind of just gambling on the statistics of the pattern up here. But if you could see this money flow, you would know that the higher probability is higher lows and higher highs. That's how I just don't know how people don't look at something else. I'm sure a lot of people do. But in my opinion, you have to look at something else, even with volume profiles, right? Because at the end of the day, when you look at this volume profile, how do you know when you should stop shorting the volume profile, right? Like you're looking for shorts at the highs, shorts at the highs, shorts at the highs, longs at the lows, longs at the lows, longs at the lows. How do I know whether I'm just going to be looking at this, oh my God, bearish confirmations, let's short that sucker back down to the low? That would be the general thought process on a value area, right? You're long in the lows, shorting the highs. Cheap, expensive. But if you're not looking at money flow, you wouldn't know. If you're just trading a volume profile alone, you're like, oh, above the value area high, let me short it, right? And then it doesn't play out. Now, if you're using good risk management, I would say you have a winner, a winner, a winner, a winner, a winner, and then one loser, right? So you're still going to be profitable long term. But I would never recommend blindly trading that, right? Because I would rather say to myself here, whatever it is, I'd rather short, long, short, long, short, long, and then instead of just taking a short and stopping out here and sitting out, I'd rather say, hey, there's a high probability this trend is going to continue to the upside. Let me capitalize on that extra profit. The only way to do that, at least the way I personally do that, I wouldn't say it's the only way, but the way I do that is with money flow. Very simply put, super easy thing to look at, all right? Green is bullish, red is bearish. So yeah, but there we go. We took a look at Solana. Let's take a quick look at Ethereum here, guys. I'm going to run through some of these altcoins, and I do actually want to try to make a run to Micro Center to get some upgrades for the PC. It is giving me some trouble. So we'll run through some of these altcoins. We'll take a look. I already took a look at Cardano. Absolutely beautiful. Got the flip of the monthly into our next zone of resistance. Getting a nice rejection from that zone of resistance. Next level of support. If we get back inside the value area at 17 cents, can't get out, I'll look for a move down towards about 16 cents with the line in the sand to make new lows being 15 cents. Lose 15 cents, I'm looking to take out the lows. Let's take a look at Ethereum. Again, not really a huge update here on Ethereum as we have been looking at this recently. We're just within the volume profile. Very simple, right? Locally, I would say you are attempting to push above your value area high here. Is this a place where I would look for a long on Ethereum? Not necessarily, right? It's very similar to Bitcoin. Where are we long on Bitcoin? From down here. Looking to be in the position before we ever enter the volume profile. By the time we fill that volume profile, we're already in massive profit with take profits locked in, guaranteed winning trade. You can either close the whole position or take partial profit if you think it's going to continue up. If it does, beautiful. If not, you stop out in profit, keeping you long-term profitable. So, would I take a long here? Not really. Even if it were to continue up, that would just be a place where I'm not typically taking a long position. So at the end of the day, we have our 5-hour red dot printing, 4-hour red dot printing. Let's check that 15-minute money flow. 15-minute money flow looking to cross over into the red here. So from a simple perspective, right now, I would say your biggest level of support that you really want to hold on top of is going to be, your value area high, sitting at about 1762. Once we get accepted back into, technically, bearish divergence is forming above the high. Once we get accepted back in here, I would say money flow is flat in the green, so I wouldn't say it's necessarily trending out. But you do have the potential 4-hour red dot, 15-minute money flow crossover, market cipher B 116 strategy. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to the beginner series, watch that market cipher B tutorial. It'll teach you exactly what I'm looking for, but typically, this would be a bearish setup, right? 4-hour red dot prints could give you an ever flow to the downside on the higher time frame. And then when you look at the 15-minute money flow, it could mean, right, money flow on the 15 minutes crossing into the red. Bounces are going to be looked at as lackluster for lower highs and lower lows. Once we get accepted into this value area high, doorway is open to the POC. Now, when I try to find the confluence to the downside, where's the biggest support level? Let's pull our full fib, very similar to Bitcoin. I would assume the level is going to be similar on that value area low, like Bitcoin, and it absolutely is. So you have your golden pocket, value area low. This would be major zone of support number 1 between 1633 and 1605. And that's just looking at this through the lens of the volume profile. Get stuck in here. Money flow continues out. Potential continuation of the downtrend. Next major target within the profile is the POC, magnetic level. Of course, you could look at this as a level of support, but once you end up losing this, right, I always prefer to see the full fill of the volume profile. Let me pull from a different low here. Let's pull it from the flip of the value area low. Yeah, so I would say golden pocket. Let me pull up some MPOCs as well here. Whoops. Yeah, weekly MPOC down at that 786. Yeah, we are rejecting the current monthly MPOC. I think that's on the chart. So we are rejecting a monthly MPOC right now. Let's pull up the daily real quick. Yeah, no points of control, no MPOCs here on the point of control of the range. So I really would say, like, if I were to favor a level here, it would not be the POC. Still a level of support, potential scalp, but I don't know if I would necessarily be looking at that as a big level. There's no confluence on the MPOCs, where down here you actually do have confluence on the MPOCs. You have the weekly MPOC down here. And I'll give you these levels in a second. No monthly MPOC. Let's take these off the chart now. So yeah, very similar to Bitcoin. You know, even this, right? Like really the confluence is down here between the monthly MPOC. I'm sorry, this is tapped. Between the weekly MPOC and the 786. I mean, these are your two biggest levels of support. Very similar to Bitcoin. Pull Bitcoin back up. Same thing, right? Get back down to the POC, lose the POC, golden pocket 786 on your weekly MPOC confluence, daily MPOC confluence. This is literally like the same exact thing. So if we get a big pullback, if you're looking for higher lows and higher highs, you would really want to hold here or here. Once you lose this, obviously you're already almost at the lows. I would be expecting to take out the lows. So biggest support zone on Ethereum right now, if we get a big correction, 1633 down to about, I'd say, 1570. Once you lose that, probably going to be a pretty aggressive dump to the downside. And I'd say locally right now, daily red dot looking to print. We could check that 90-minute money flow. 90-minute money flow coming out. Potential market cipher B bearish setup there. So once we get accepted into the range, right, daily red dot prints, money flow crosses red. That could very easily give you the continuation of the downtrend, first targeting that POC at 1667. And then once we get down here, we can kind of identify what's going on. But I would say really the big levels are really closer down here between 1600 and 1570. So there you go. That's what I would look at. I'd watch that daily for the move down. I'd look for the red dot and the 90-minute money flow crossover. That is the closest incoming market cipher B bearish setup. If we get a break to the upside for some reason, biggest level of resistance is the value area low here at 1841. Once we get above that, we could potentially look for a bigger move up through that profile. Again, very similar to Bitcoin. You have your upper profile, your lower profile. Once we end up cracking these highs, flipping this to support, could be a fast move up. Just like on Bitcoin, once you get out of this volume profile, get accepted above the POC, could be a fast move up. Very, very similar. So this would very clearly be your door. Whoops. This would be your doorway to higher prices for ETH. Got to flip it and hold it. But yeah, daily money flow here on Ethereum attempting to come up, right? We could say, there's no saying that this isn't the bottom of the money flow wave, right? This continues up. Remember, this indicates trend, not ebbs and flows. So if we get an ebb or flow to the downside, potential higher lows, that money flow continues up, we can look for continuation up. It wouldn't be until we lose that 786 that I would look for a bigger dump to the downside. So there you go. Let's see. Shout out to VTroll. Said, are we still looking at the liquidation heat maps? Yes, I was actually going to bring this up. Where's it at? Here's another thing to look at as well. All right, so here's our liquidation heat map. Liquidity sitting just below the 61.1 low, all the way down into about 60,500 on Bitcoin. There is the 61.1 low, 60,300 into the value area low, right? So, again, when we look at those liquidation heat maps, if we wanted to go sweep some liquidity, let me mark this out. We do have liquidity below these lows. So again, if we see the rotation from the high, can't get back out, lose the POC, if we sweep out that liquidity, could happen right into that golden pocket. And this is, in my opinion, the start of the decision-making process for Bitcoin. Is it going to be a higher low, or is it going to break down and flip into a bigger downtrend? I would say the 5. 5-hour money flow could call for the continuation. 6-hour, attempting to cross into the green. 8-hour, attempting to come up. 10-hour, attempting to come up. 12-hour, attempting to cross green. 16-hour, attempting to cross green as well. So if we're going to look for that overall continuation up, this is really the zone to do it at. We can hold here, looking for the big breakdown into the 57 to 56.5 level. So we do have liquidation sitting down there, which could help us push into that golden pocket. Definitely something I'll be paying attention to as we push down into those levels, if we do, which I wouldn't say is not super unlikely. 16-hour red dot now printing, 12-hour red dot about to print. You know, these can very likely give you a pullback. So I would say locally, we're below the value area high. Money flow is coming out. High time frame red dots are printing. You know, a pullback is, in my opinion, somewhat likely here. Lose the PLC, biggest level of support to look at. So there you go. That's what I'll be watching on ETH. Very simple. Would be trading this as a volume profile. I'm not holding a trade on ETH, but if I were, I'd be looking, where would my next long be, right? Or where would I be looking for my next long? Preferably, I'd like a pullback into that golden pocket 786 zone. If it comes up before that, I just probably wouldn't take the trade. Just let it go. Let's see. Take a look at Solana real quick. And we'll also take a look at XRP. So Solana, we did not get the pullback into the key support, which is fine, but I will take it off because it's actually, I'll just move this to the new high. Slightly moves that up. So I would still say the biggest level of support here on Solana. All right, let's zoom out here. We had our previous area of value. We had a local area of value. Once we impulse out of this range, where's the next likely place for price to go? It's going to seek fair value. Auction market theory. Break out of here. All right, once we start impulsing, very likely to get gravitated towards that previous value. We got the breakout of the local value area, push into the resistance, which was the daily MPOC, and the value area low. This is always going to be resistance until proven otherwise. If we get rejected out of this range and pull back more, I'd say the biggest level of support to look at on Solana is going to be sitting right here. Golden Pocket 786, daily MPOC, and the anchored VWAP pulled from this high. This would be a big level to flip into support. When we see our money flow, 6-hour in the green, 5-hour also in the green, 8-hour attempting to stay in the green, 10-hour in the green, 12-hour just crossed into the green, 16-hour, right? So for the long-term trend here, daily, oh man, this daily's trying. But I would say looking at the 16-hour again, like you could see a lot of these money flow, a lot of these time frames have the chopped money flow, right? Like 12 and 16-hour, very similar to Bitcoin. Popping into the green here at face value, that would make me open to looking for higher lows and higher highs. If we get a bigger correction, what would be the nicest level, in my opinion, to hold? You want to stay outside this lower value. You have the Golden Pocket 786, so it is an area where you can look for a higher low. And then eventually, a potential higher high. Flip this POC, I'd be looking for the value area high at about $91. So locally, I would not be surprised if you continue to correct. If you do get that, this is the biggest zone to look at, sitting between 76.48 and 74.37. The level hasn't moved since the last time we looked at it, for the most part. Right? You do not want to get accepted back into this value. You want to break out of this value, retest it as support if you have to, and then get back into the upper value for higher prices. With money flow coming into the green like this, as long as this continues staying in the green, you would hope that you can look for higher lows and higher highs. So there you go. That is the biggest level to look at, 76.48 to 74.37. If we pull back there, that's where you're hoping for the bounce. Once you lose the 786 POC, I would be expecting a much bigger move down towards 68.65 and eventually the value area low at 66.27. Simple volume profile stuff. Short at the highs, long at the lows, money flow crossing green so you can anticipate more of a breakout there. And long term, money flow is still in the green. You could be open for higher lows and higher highs. If it fails and loses the POC, you're looking for a move down to the daily naked point of control. Now, would a push down to this value area low completely invalidate the macro trend? Not necessarily, right? This 786 would be the line. For a new low on Solana, to break the June low, you got to lose the 786 at 65.96. So I would say you could still look at this golden pocket and this 786. These are all key levels. Even if you were just looking for a scalp or something like that, right? Daily MPOC golden pocket, value area low 786, potential bounce. If we get accepted below the POC, potential turbulence here. But, within the profile, I'm always going to hope and be more interested in that full volume profile rotation. And then here, could you put in a higher low and a higher high? Maybe. I just don't. It's too far away. I don't know what money flow would look like back here. But one thing I can say is once you lose that 786, I'm looking to take out the low, and very likely going to be targeting about $58. So line in the sand for $58 on Solana is you have to lose that 786 at $65. So there you go. That would be the context. Your hope is to get accepted into this bigger profile. If we pull back, you're really hoping not to get accepted back in here. If we do, last level of defense. Shout out to Gen Z said, why are we looking at toilet coins when BTC? Back to Bitcoin, guys. Here we go. Going back to the, let's pull up the 1 minute time frame. Oh my God, we're mooning, guys. We're mooning. Look at this bounce. I'm just kidding. Shout out to Gen Z. Take that moving average off the chart. So yeah, and then the other altcoin I did want to check in with you guys was XRP, as of course we had talked about the next target on XRP being this golden pocket. Well, we drew the line, very sloppy line, but I'll just hide this for now. We have pushed into the golden pocket, which was the start of the resistance zone here between the golden pocket 786 anchored VWAP value area high. We had the daily bullish divergences into the golden pocket, right? Of course, like I always say, these daily bull divs are very unlikely to give you nothing, right? Whether this turns into a massive trend change is going to be more based on the money flow, which we don't have a lot of information on right now. But if that continues up, we can continue to look for higher lows and higher highs. But until then, this daily bull div, you have to be careful because I am not going to be excited until you can break above that 786. We have broken into our larger value area. Break in, can't get out, can't get out. If we can't break this zone between $1.18 to $1.23, these are the levels to watch on XRP. If you cannot break above this level and you continue to get stuck inside this volume profile, it is not a good sign in my opinion, right? Once you lose this golden pocket, I'm looking to go from the high, can't get out. Next likely place for price to go is the POC sitting at about 82.5 cents. And right now, yeah, I mean, your money flow is trying to trend up. We'll see what happens. But again, from a structure perspective, I would not be getting excited for a bigger push up on XRP until we get above these levels. You have to get out of the value area, break the 786. In that case, I'll be looking for a snap at this high into our next major level at about $1.34. Until then, you have resistance above, potentially holding you inside this volume profile. All right, I don't know what's going to happen here, guys. You could chop around in here for a while, eventually test it, and then break down. But this is the level to look at. All right, we brought this up as the resistance level last week. Simple, pulled from the high to the low. Barely front ran that golden pocket. You probably hit it on your log scale. There you go. But either way, right, general zone. We continue up. This remains resistance. Got to break that. Very simply put. But very nice to see us push into that, though. Again, daily bull div, very likely to give you a push to the upside. When we look at that down here, it's like, oh my God, are we really going to retrace that much? Of course. So there you go. Red dot looking to print. So I do think, right, if we're going to get the bigger dump down, see what that red dot be doing with that 90-minute money flow. Very similar to Bitcoin. Potential bearish setup here on Market Cipher B. 90-minute money flow crossover. We'll see if that daily red dot prints today. If we do, we have a Market Cipher B 1/16th bearish setup pointing towards the continuation of the downtrend. Any time frame you look at, 5-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute, hour, weekly, money flow crosses red. I am expecting the trend on that specific time frame to continue down for lower highs and lower lows. Lower highs, lower lows. So we'll see what happens. I would say any bounce right now, I'd be very cautious for a continuation of that local downtrend. Local support. Pull that full fib retracement. Yeah, very similar to a lot of other stuff. You do not want to get accepted back inside this value area, right? You kind of want to bounce off this golden pocket. So local support on XRP, about $1.07 to $1.06. Once you lose that, I think you're probably headed down closer to $1.03. But again, from just a medium time frame perspective, I'm not interested in necessarily trading XRP. But from a long-term perspective, we are breaking into, this is not really looking too hot. Breaking into a major value area. This is a major macro value area. Fast move up, test it, break in, bearish retest. We can't get out of here, guys. I have to keep that open target towards the POC at 82K until we snap that 786. So there you go. That's what I'd be looking at on XRP. 2-day money flow, not looking super bad. 3-day money flow coming back out. Yeah, guys, oh my God. I cannot wait for this money flow to not be chopped up anymore. It's brutal. Let's see. Zcash doing the exact same thing. Honestly, a lot of these altcoins, it's part of the reason, right? Like, we teach the TA here, but to look at every single altcoin, it's like very often we're just repeating the same analysis on a different chart with different numbers on the side, right? Like when we look at Ethereum, now there are differences between certain assets as they move differently, right? Like Ethereum's structure this cycle was not the same as Bitcoin, so you do have differences there. But at the end of the day, right, like when I pull this up side by side with Bitcoin, it's like, I don't want to say it's a one-to-one mirror, which, it kind of makes sense that it's like that as well. Let me just pull this up side by side with Bitcoin, right? I'll pull ETH up here. I'll pull Bitcoin up here, right? Like when we look at this, right, it's like all the same thing. Here's your value area for Bitcoin. Here's your value area for ETH. Here's the 68K high. Here's the 68K high, right? So it's like all like almost the exact same analysis for a different asset, right? It's like literally the exact same thing. The key level to break here on Bitcoin is the 68K POC for a bigger move up. The big level to break here is the value area low and the previous high for a potentially big move up. It's all the same stuff. So the reason I say that is because I'm not shocked that Zcash is doing something similar. If we pull up Zcash, let me pull it up on the MACD chart. Whoops. I don't know exactly what value areas you're looking at, but I will just take a look at this in general. So you have, last time we looked at this, we haven't looked at this in probably a week or two. Take this off, that's, whoops. Take this off, that's tap. Take this off, that's still a support resistance flip. But of course, we had gotten the push in above our value area high with our high time frame bearish confirmations. You had the daily bearish divergence. We talked about this at the time. Deviation above the high, this is where I like to look for shorts, right? Doesn't mean you can't continue up, but that is where I like to look for shorts for eventual acceptance back into the range to fill the value area in full. Yes, we wicked down below into your previous value, which is hilarious. But also look where your candles closed, right? Down to the bottom of that value. So, and it was a head and shoulders, guys. Oh my God. But daily bearish divergences, get back inside the range, back to the POC, back to the low, back above, into the POC, back into the high. At this point, we pull the, golden pocket, 786 retracement. This is your retracement level for a lower high before a lower low. Push into the value area high fib zone, back down to the POC in the low. I would say right now, with your money flow on the daily, pretty generally trending to the downside, I would be careful of more downside here. You've filled to the value area high, came down to the POC, front ran the value area low, back into your retracement levels. As long as you remain inside this range, technically, we've tapped the high and have not tapped the low. I'd say your biggest key level to look at right now is the value area low at 356.38. Kind of just chopping around the profile, to be honest. But if that money flow stays in the red, bearish divergences, lower high, eventual lower low, it may not be unlikely. So, yeah. Let me just see something here. Yeah, and you are currently rejecting your local 786. So let's check the 4-hour. 4-hour money flow, of course, it's in the green. 16 hours, yeah, money flow looks very similar to Bitcoin. But yeah, I am suspicious that you front ran this value area low after tapping the high. We all know that it can be it's not always perfect. Get above the high, straight to the POC, flip the POC, back to the high. Right, or flip the low, back to the POC, flip the POC, back to the high. That is generally how it works, but it's not always that clean, right? Sometimes you reject the high, go to the POC, get a little bit of a bounce. As long as you remain inside the range, technically the full value rotation is still in the cards. Would not be out of the cards until we break out of the profile. So yeah, and with the way money flow looks like right now, it's very hard to put a confident call. It's just really choppy. But yeah. I'd be more interested in longing this if we pushed into the actual low. Just not oftentimes that you leave these naked like that, especially after you barely front run it. And you have the daily red dot incoming. We'll see. Let's see. Shout out to Raven, said we can pull our volume profiles to the current price action now because we're back inside the range, right? Shout out to Raven, bro. Paying attention during these live streams, bro. I love it. Yes, typically, I don't know if you're talking about Bitcoin or an altcoin, but yes, previously, two ways I look at these ranges, guys. Let's say price does this, right? We're in a range. My volume profile is pulled like this. Once I say impulse out of the range, I do not pull the current price action. When I look at these volume profiles, I am using them to measure the balanced price. I want to find the fair value or the balanced price action, which is the range. So I am only going to highlight where that range is. I stop the pull after we impulse out. Now, if you come back up, get back inside the range, you can argue then we are back inside value and you can extend the value to the current price action. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be that aggressive of an impulse, right? Like let's just say we come down, we start kind of bing-bonging around here. I'm still looking at this profile through the balanced price. Let's say we get back in and continue to range inside the price action. I will then extend it to your, as soon as you enter back into balance, that is typically where I'm pulling to my current price action. And to be fair, technically, it's not wrong to just pull your price, it's not wrong to necessarily pull to the current price action in general, right? It's the levels are based off volume, so it's not, I wouldn't say it's wrong. But like, let's say I'm looking at this volume profile. Once we impulse out, I'm viewing this as my value, right? Like this is my value. Once I impulse out, I want to find where that balanced price action is. Once I get that imbalance, this is no longer balanced price action, so I'm not going to pull it to there. Right? Like this is not the volume profile I'm going to look at. But if you were to look at that, right, you would be saying, hey, if I get accepted back inside this value area high, I can look for a fill down to the low. Lose the value area high, back to the POC, little bounce, can't get out, back down to the low. right? So there's really no wrong way to look at a volume profile because the levels are actually based off volume. But the way I would typically look at it personally, this is more preference. I would view this as my previous value, right? If we come down, and you'll kind of see how it's not much different. If you come back down, here's your value area high. Once you get accepted back in, you're looking to go to the low, not too far off. But at this point, you're back inside your value. Now you can start to extend. Now all of a sudden, you have this clean, larger volume profile. Right? We have the value down here. Once we get back in, I can extend it to my current price action. Now I have a new value area. It's right here. If I'm longing down here, I can say to myself, if I get back into the range, not only would I be looking at that previous volume profile, but now that we have the new profile, the value area high is now sitting up here. So we're not just going to target here. We're going to target here. Where are we going to look for the next short? Up at that value area high. Price action gets back into value. We can extend. Now I'm looking for lows below the low. If I get back in, I'm looking to go to the high. Look where price stalls out, right at the high. Does that make sense? So, again, for me personally, I like to mark price out. I like to mark the fair value, right? Like even here. My fair value might be this at first, then we get a big drop down. I'm no longer looking at that as I'm no longer looking at this as fair value. We've impulsed out of the fair value. Come back up, bearishly retest the value area low, back down, back in, fill it in full, right? Now that we come back into value and filled it, I can extend that price action to the right. Now I have a bigger volume profile. Now my volume profile looks like this, right? I wouldn't get too chopped up about that, to be honest. Because again, when you pull your volume profile, it might mess up your perspective of where the fair value is, but it's not going to give you invalid levels. Does that make sense? Even here. My original fair value was here. Once we start trending to the upside, I'm no longer looking at that profile, right? Once we come back down here, get it back inside the value, I can pull it into the full price action, right? Low, low, high, deviation, back in, back to the low, deviation, bearish retest. Does that make sense? If you go watch the volume profile tutorial, I explain this all in full. But yeah, typically, like here, I'm looking at, let me actually hide the actual range, right? When I'm looking at my current price action, maybe my range starts off right here, right? Then we deviate back up. We come back down. We hold the value area high. Once we get back in, now I can extend it to the right. Now my value area is here. Flip this value area low. I can look for a fill to the value area high. Right? This was the range that we looked at last week, I believe. Deviate below the low. Once we flip the low, go to the POC, flip the POC, eventually go to the high. Where are we stalling at right now? The value area high. But once we come into current price action, I say it's now valid. This is the range I'm looking at now. Pull it to current price action. Why? Because we're back inside balance. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. Yeah, shout out to Raven. Absolutely. That's essentially what I do. But again, that's not the only way to do it. You don't have to do it like that. That's just the way I prefer to look at it. Free sauce. Shout out to Darren. Yeah, we give it all away for free, baby. I'll be sure to watch it again. Shout out to Brillo. Yeah, definitely do that. I'm gonna try to update some of them as well. Yeah, volume profiles really do feel like cheating. Absolutely, guys, because this is the reason, right? The reason it feels like cheating is simply because of the theory of value, right? The market is an auction, and again, obviously the volume profiles are going to have a benefit when you're in ranging price action, right? When you're in a range. Short the high, long the low, short the high, long the low, short the high, long the low? Maybe not, because of the money flow that we see coming out, probably going to break down, right? That's for another day. That lesson of when to stop, right? Like, number one, price action ranges 80%, 70 to 80% of the time. So you're going to get a lot more action, right? If you're just waiting for the big trends, which is totally fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. but you're gonna, you're just naturally gonna have less setups, right? You're gonna have to wait longer for your setup to present itself, and have to wait longer for it to play out, whether depending on what time frame you're looking at. But because price action ranges a majority of the time, it gives you many setups to take, right? Short, long, rejected at the POC, long again, right? Above the high, short, right? Potential long. So you get a lot of opportunities. And again, the market is an auction. So I'll leave you with this. Cheap, expensive. Think of it, right? I'll give you a metaphor here. I always use the Red Bull metaphor. Analogy? I don't know. Let's say, right? And then inside the profile is fair value. You could think of this as oversold, overbought. Inside is the fair value. Inside the value area high and the value area low is where 70% of the price action took place. When it goes above, they sell it back into the fair value. When it's cheap, they buy it until it goes back to the fair value. Cheap again, they buy it until it goes back to the fair value. So the goal here, it's basically just like mean reversion, right? You're looking to trade the extremities. You are not, like, when you're up and you know that this is looked at as expensive price, you know you're better off selling than buying, right? Again, you have to keep context in mind, all this stuff. But in general, right, assuming your money flow is on your side and all that, when you look at this and it gives you perfect context. This is expensive. I'm going to look for a short. I'm going to do my analysis and see if I have a short setup. I'm in overbought price action. This is expensive. Do I have bearish confirmations? Well, look at this. I have a bearish divergence. What is this? The 8-hour time frame is the most random time frame ever, right? Bearish divergences. If I take this trade, right, maybe you're looking for an SFP of this high, which you also got. SFP, bearish divergence. I'm going to fire on a short. What is my plan for the short? Let's just say I took the SFP. Well, obviously, if I view this as a volume profile, I can look for this to come down to the value area high. Once I lose the high, POC is very likely next, which is very close to the high in this case. Once I lose the POC, I'm looking to go down to the value area low. I have now sold, right, shorted the expensive price, and I expect it to go back into the fair value. It does. I take profit. Now it's cheap. Do I have confirmations here? I have come into the area. Once I come below this value area, I say warning signs go off. And cheap price action. You should be looking for longs. And you only want to take the trade if you see the setup. But you are in the area where you are better off looking for longs than shorts. This is where most people say, oh my God, we're dumping. Let me go short. They all get trapped, and then it goes riding up into the fair value, right? So you're looking for a long. Do I have a reason to take a long for the simplicity's sake here? Lower lows on your price action, higher lows on your momentum waves. There's a bullish divergence. Let's just say you have other confirmations. You take the long trade. What is the plan for that trade? Hopefully you could get the full volume profile rotation. Price gets into the value area low, holds it as support. Next likely place for price to go is to go back to the fair value. This is the fairest value. The POC is the fairest value. It is the area where the most price action, where the most volume was transacted. The strongest magnet within the profile. Once you get accepted back into the range, very high probability of at least going to the POC, if not the value area high. So you take a TP1 at the POC, like I typically do. Typically, if I'm entering at the low, POC is TP1, value area high is TP2. If I'm shorting, POC is TP1, value area low is TP2, right? You take some profit off the table, move your stop loss to break even. In this case, if your stop loss was even at break even, you would have been able to stay in the trade, and eventually you get up to the high. If you did get stopped out, you got stopped out in profit. Beautiful trade. But the key here is that you were looking for longs at the right time. You were looking for shorts at the right time. Maybe you look for a new long here. Maybe you don't. Whatever. You don't have confirmations. I don't see any confirmations, at least on the 8-hour. You probably have confirmations on the lower time frames. But just in general, you're long it at the lows, back into the range, back to the PLC, back to the high. Where are you looking for your next short? At the high. This is why we love the volume profiles. Very, very high probability that you are at least looking for the correct side of the trade on each move. Instead of being like, oh my God, we're pumping. Should I long? Right? This is never the case. Doesn't mean you can't continue up from here. Obviously, context and all that is important as well. But that is the basis of the volume profiles, right? And then eventually, when we use high time frame money flow to indicate whether we're going to get a breakout or breakdown, of course, price is not going to range around forever, right? Price is not going to beautifully respect this volume profile forever. Eventually, it's going to impulse up or it is going to break down. The way we identify that is by simply looking at money flow on the higher time frames. Let's say the daily. Come on down to the low. Obviously, we traded this live and talked about these signals that we saw, right? Really, the 2-day money flow was the worrisome situation here. Money flow trending out over time. We range around. As you're bouncing around in this fair value, we see money leaving the asset, indicating a higher probability of a breakdown than a break up. If we had 2-day money flow here in the red coming up over time and it was about to cross green, I would say there is a high probability that one of these longs would play out for a much bigger breakout, turning from a single or a double, right? One of these little singles or doubles that we get within the profile, eventually that turns into a grand slam. And the way we identify that is through money flow, right? So when we get back down to this value area low, are we really interested in longing this for a massive breakout? Not really. We can scalp it for a potential move back to the POC maybe, or maybe back into the value area low. But overall, with money flow coming out, we're going to start to say to ourselves, we're probably better off if we take a short at the high. Of course, the base case there is to go to the POC and the value area low. But once we get down here, we look at this money flow and say to ourselves, maybe I want to hold a portion of this for lower highs and lower lows. Money flow coming out indicates lackluster bounces, lower highs, lower lows for eventual breakdowns in the market. So on this bounce, if I were going to take a long, it would have to be a scalp for an anticipated lower high and a lower low and an eventual trend to the downside, leaving this value. And that's how you can eventually start holding one of your range trades, right? Again, your singles or doubles into a massive absolute grand slam, which we absolutely did in the premium Discord, holding my, we had a short set up at about $125,000 and we held that sucker all the way down, or I personally did. I think a lot of other people did as well. I can't talk for other people, but holding that, anticipating this fast drop to the downside, pushing into $83,000, taking profit. Right? Because we knew there was a high probability. We took some profit up here, but I wound up holding the rest of that trade for the big capitulation down that we expected, and we expected it because of the money flow. Look at the money flow. Perfectly calling that move down. So there you go. A little bit of a free volume profile intro course for you guys. Let's see. Frankie has the best sound effects. Shout out to Mark Dutch. Chop. Shout out to Gen Z. BTC 1 minute inverted head and shoulders. Moon. Shout out to Vitro. Let's go, baby. Let's go. But yeah, I will leave you guys with this major volume profile to look at. We're below the value area high. We got the 4-hour red dot potentially looking to print as long as you remain below this value area high, and more specifically below the weekly and the weekly MPOC, the biggest levels of resistance right now. As you saw the thumbnail, Bitcoin testing resistance. Will we break out? Well, number one, that level of resistance is sitting right here. Get it on your chart, 65.7 to 64.500. As long as we're able to remain inside this range, if the 4-hour red dot prints, that is what I will look at for the continuation to the downside. If we come down, the biggest level of support to look at is between 60,300 and 59K. We must hold these levels. Once we start flipping the weekly and the weekly MPOC, I do think there is a high chance we come sweep $68,000. And then at this point, guys, it is going to be the biggest decision-making moment for Bitcoin in a while. Will we be able to hold it for the massive move up? Or will we fake it out for the big move down? I would actually feel pretty good if we can come up here and sweep 68K, because at that point, even if we sweep here and get a pullback, you are potentially getting accepted into your profile, watching the point of control and the value area low as key support. If we can hold inside that range, the doorway to those higher targets are open. 71,500 and eventually $75,000 to $77,000. But for right now, locally, until we break 68K, there's no reason to be looking at these upper targets. For now, we will keep an eye on our local profile. I'm holding the short from the high, and I'm holding the long from the low. We'll see what this pullback gives us, and hopefully we can hold on top of 59K, because if not, it's going to be bad. So there you go. Mark this off on your chart. Value area low, 59,860. POC, 62,568. Value area high, $64,554. Watch that 4-hour red dot for the continuation down. 15-minute money flow. Still chopping around here, of course. But yeah, and again, I would say the big sign if that we're going to get a big correction is going to be the daily red dot with that 90-minute money flow coming out very clean. That is the biggest bearish confirmation we have for a pullback to come in. So we'll see if we print that daily red dot in the next day or so. We'll either print it tonight or tomorrow. If we're going to print it, that is the thing to look for on the pullback. Biggest key level below us, biggest key level above us. So there you go, guys. I'm going to hop out of here. Hopefully I can get to Micro Center before they close. Stream Deck totally frozen here. There we go. But thank you guys all for tuning in. Very, very nice, at least to see the rejection at resistance. Got the short position. Again, I kind of prefer to get, I'm kind of sitting close to break even. I think I'm, let me see. Yeah, I'm up like $240 here, basically just hovering around break even. So we'll see if we can capitalize on that little short to the downside. And, you know, if we do continue down, hopefully we could get money flow to continue up and give us that bigger breakout. But I will keep you guys updated here. Oh, you can't even see my screen. But thank you guys for being here. I appreciate every single one of you. Smash that like button on your way out. Shout out to Steven. Shout out to Karul. Shout out to Minaj. Shout out to Self Wealth Crypto. Shout out to Wahoo. Shout out to, I think I said Mark Dutch. Darren Does Things. And last but not least, Octuari. I don't know how to say that name, bro. But thank you guys for being here. I got to run. I will see you guys tomorrow right here on the Frankie Candles YouTube channel. That's all I got. Hasta pasta. Frankie Candles out. Bing bong.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming, I'm a landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command, like, yeah, you about to see me on demand, like, you know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't never going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah, at the top of the class on a roll, ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know, yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, yeah, on the road, here we go, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out.